Good morning once again. I am now recording our session for grade 9 English. Someone is joining in the name of Ahmad Basar Umpar. I'm just not sure who this is. I think this is a new student. Jaya has now requested to join the Zoom call. And there's one whose name is MacBook Pro. For sure, I don't know who the person is. Raf Istardo is now going to be admitted to this call. Putting the total number of participating students to, as of this time, 17. Hi Jaya, good morning. Was it you who tried to log in earlier using the account of George? Raf, good morning. Jamie, good morning as well.
Good morning, sir.
Raf, where's your sister? Where's Alex?
She's still finding the link.
Okay. We might as well then start. Let's give your classmates the time to join in later on. Anyway, by the time it gets notified that they want to join, I'll just admit them to the Zoom call. So I welcome everybody to this school year. It's school year 2020-2021. And welcome to grade 9 English. Let's try to recall what probably was your most memorable experience of your grade 8 English class. Please do not mention diagramming. Please do not mention diagramming. Well, of course, I think diagramming was quite a memorable experience. Would you agree on that? Diagramming probably stands out as a very memorable experience coming from you. So many of you did well in that in the lessons on diagramming. You all did so well. I can't forget how happy you all were while answering the activities, the exams. How excited you all were for those many days that I entered your room. It was as if you were already telling me, sir, what sentences can we diagram today? You all gave me that feeling, and so I did not frustrate you. We went as far as diagramming compound or complex sentences. Now that's a great feat. But this year's English class is going to be a different one. Why? This year's English class is not anymore going to separate your literature subject and your language subject. It's going to be a combination of both in just one subject. And then it's just now up to the teacher on what area of the English subject is going to be taught at a particular time. Like for instance, your teacher, in my case, that would be me, I might actually decide that for the first quarter, we're going to focus on literature. What does that mean? For that entire set of weeks, we are going to have literary selections as well as the literature lessons that could be attributed to that particular selection. Whereas when you were in grades 7 and 8, you really had the time to have one subject for language, which ran for an entire school year. So you had one entire school year for the discussion of grammar lessons. The same went for literature, as it also had an entire school year for the teaching of literature selections, as well as of literary skills. Before I proceed, I'd like to call the attention of Ahmad Basar. Ahmad, I hope I read your name right. You can unmute yourself, Ahmad. I hope I got your name right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please allow me to raise a few questions because among everybody so far who have gotten in, you're the only one whom I haven't known. May I request Amar to introduce himself to everybody?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ahmad Basir Umpar. I'm 15 years old from Tagbilaran City.
Also, you're from Tagbilaran City. And if you don't mind me asking as well, from from what background is the family name? Because the family
Umpar,
name doesn't sound Boholano or kind, yeah, it doesn't sound Boholano.
um, Muslim Islam family, sir.
Oh, okay, okay. Is, oh, or sorry, are you a native of Bohol or have you just transferred to Bohol?
I grow here in Bohol 15 years na, sir.
Oh, okay. So you've really been living or residing here in Bohol.
Yes,
That's good. That's
since
good.
birth.
Since birth. So you have there grade 9. I was about to call you grade 8. There you have it, grade 9. You have your new classmate, Ahmad. I hope Ahmad can also see the names of his classmates in their respective frames. So that if you have also some concerns, if you want to ask for help, then feel free to approach any of your classmates. Feel free to approach any of your teachers if you wish to have some things clarified, especially that there may be some parts of the discussion of a subject, in my subject perhaps, or in the subject in your subject with the other teachers, that things might need more time for clarification. For your classmates, I think, do you still need to introduce yourselves? Like, yeah, perhaps it's kind of nice to also hear from you from time to time. Who knows, one of you here who was a girl, then actually now have a voice of a man. Can I request each of, when I call on you, you can just say a simple greeting and then I'll proceed with the rest of the members of the class. This is again a good reason for me to also do this is for me to have an idea of how good your audio are. From where you're staying right now, that will give me an idea how good your audio sounds from where I am staying and how good you can also be heard by your classmates. I'd like to start very short, just a very short statement for you to say. Just greet your classmates. It could be as simple as, hi, grade 9, hi, classmates, good morning, how are you? And then we can proceed to another student. I'd like to begin with Jade.
Good morning.
Yes, Jade.
Good morning, sir.
Make it a bit louder, Jade. I think it has something to do with the volume of your audio.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, that's fine. That's better. That's better. Good morning, Jade. Next would be Ken.
Good morning, everyone.
Thank you, Ken. Hero, what about you? I can't hear anything. Unfortunately, Hero, I can't hear anything. You have already unmuted yourself though earlier. Try unmuting yourself now. Go.
Everyone.
Um, Try to make it a bit louder.
Good morning, everyone.
I think I don't know but from where I'm staying right now, I could barely hear your voice, Hero. What about the others? Was it audible enough for you to hear or while listening to Hero?
It's C9, sir. It's soft.
So that's the thing. Try to make it a
Little
bit.
bit, sir.
Why don't you try doing it again,
Little
Hero?
bit lang.
Makaya ra. Ay, a little bit.
Don't worry, Al. Everything here is recorded. So in the event that you spoke in the vernacular, Vam need not write anything. She doesn't have to record anything now because the session is recorded. Hero, again, I'd like to request you. Can you say something?
Good morning, everyone.
Louder, louder. I think it is something, or perhaps later on, Hero, you can try testing the microphone of your computer. You can practice at home and then try to see for yourself whether you are audible enough or not. Then Chelsea, good morning. Can you try to say something? Chelsea?
Oh, good morning, sir. Good morning,
Okay,
everyone.
that's good. That's quite a very loud audio, and I really like it. Next would be King. Can you say something, King? A short statement,
Good
King.
morning, everyone.
Good morning. You sounded That was one of the saddest good mornings, King, that I've heard. You reminded me of our first meeting when you were in grade 8. Remember that first meeting that we had? It happened. And now that student whom I requested to read something will be joining the call, Kent Marcinilia. You reminded me of our first meeting. I asked you to read interjections on the board. And it was a greeting. But your greeting, King, sounded so sad. King has just greeted us a good morning. So how should we better say it? King, can I request you to do it again?
Good morning, everyone.
You sounded sick. You sounded sick, King. I thought when people say good morning, they'd say it with a smile, with a vibrant energy, because it's a greeting for a morning, that the morning was good, that the morning is good. So, King, one final chance. Go.
Good morning, everyone.
See? How nice does that sound? Please, please don't find it awkward, because this is how things are going to be from now on. So you'll be at home, people at home will be looking at you, smiling and laughing, expressing yourselves. Imagine debate. Just imagine debate. As you are going to be my debate students as well, but of course we'll do the orientation of that later on. Yet again, just be used to this. No, you don't have to feel awkward at all. Everybody in your class is going through this experience. Good morning, Kent. Kent and Natalia, can I request that the both of you turn your camera on? If your internet connections would allow it, please do so. Thank you so much, Natalia. May I also know who MacBook Pro is? Is there someone from you who knows who MacBook Pro is from your class? Next,
Harvey.
King, that would be
Harvey, sir. Maybe
again,
it's Harvey.
Harvey, sir.
Harvey Casaderes.
Maybe.
Harvey, I'd like to request, this is not just for Harvey, but for everybody. I'd like to also request everyone that by the time you log into Zoom, please use your complete names, real and complete names. Because the last time I checked, no one from your class had a given name of Mac with a family name of Pro and a middle name of Book. So please try to work on that later on. Or if you can't do it now, then by the time it gets really verified, then I can do the changing of your names for you. I can rename each student frame. Next would be Ali. Perhaps anything, Ali, that you would like to say?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Oh, look at that, King. Look at that style of Ali, King. It was said with a smile. Next would be Alex. I can see here Rafael from the back of Alex.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Next would be Trixley. 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 Hello, Trixley. I can't hear anything from Trixley, unfortunately. Next to Trixley, let's try to skip Trixley for now. I'd like to call in Natalia.
Sama.
Oh my God. There, Trixley, I heard you already.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Next will be Natalia. Let's give the chance now to Natalia. Hello, Natalia.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Next will be Harl.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Christian. Al.
Morning, everyone.
A very sad morning. That sounded sad, Al. Again, perhaps? Go.
Good morning, everyone.
There. Greet people with a smile. That would really. Why? Is it because. Do you still feel kind of awkward while looking at yourself in the camera?
My siblings are here, sir.
It's all right. It's all right because your siblings probably are still also in another class. Let's go with Veb.
Buenos dias, everyone. God bless us all.
See? Vem had to say, felt like saying it not in English. Vem came prepared. She was quite prepared for this. I'd like to request Ahmad again to speak for himself and then say something just like what his classmates had said for this morning. Go.
Hi, sir. Hi, classmate. Good morning.
Good morning. And then Ahmad, how would you prefer to be called?
Mad, sir. My nickname.
Your
Nickname.
nickname, which is?
Mad.
Mad. So if you're going to introduce yourself, you can probably say, I'm mad.
Yes.
Wow. That's quite new for me. Next that I'd like to call would be Kent.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Next would be Kint.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Next would be Shalaila. Shalaila.
Good morning, people.
Good morning. Good morning. Next would be Jaya.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Jamie. What about Jamie?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Next is Kat. Kathy.
Morning, sir. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. What about Corinne?
Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Spencer.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Dave.
Yo, good morning.
Good morning. What about MacBook Pro?
MacBook.
MacBook Pro? MacBook Pro is a kind of computer, so probably he's not going to say something as of this time. MacBook Pro, perhaps later on you can change your name and finally reveal who you are. So I hope everybody has gotten the chance to at least greet everyone in this class. That gave me the idea now that you are quite audible from where I am staying. You are, except for Hero and Jade earlier, who sounded quite unclear at first, but later on the audio became a bit better. But again, perhaps next time before you join in any of the Zoom calls, or perhaps in your first period Zoom call, try to test the audio of your computer, test it out, and then try to fully grasp how your voice sounds, or whether you could really hear yourselves well, or sorry, if others could hear you very well. After having heard from each of you, allow me to also remind you that this happens in the first period of the day. Our English class is scheduled at 7:30 to 8:30, which more or less means that you should try to log in. Yeah, you should try to wait for this call to be initiated before 7:30. I'll really do my best to initiate this call before 7:30 so that at 7:30 we can start right away. Perhaps next time we will not have to spend 5 to 10 minutes or 7 minutes waiting for others to join the call. because by then I will have hoped that you have already been waiting for me to initiate the Zoom call. I'm hoping that by the time I initiate the call, by the time the call has been initiated, students are already there in the waiting room, just ready to be admitted to the call. To those who might be experiencing some internet problems, try to log in or be in the waiting room at an earlier time. That will resolve issues of delay. So that by the time I initiate the call, you are already there as well, waiting to be admitted into this Zoom session. Another thing is, as this session or all of our sessions, as all of our sessions are going to be recorded, the recording of the session will be posted in Edmodo. Have you all made an Edmodo, or do you already have Edmodo accounts? That's good. This morning, I am going to give you the class code for English 9. You'll need that class code because you'll use that to join our English 9 Edmodo class. The class code, I'll just dictate the class code. The class code for English 9 is lowercase s 6, lowercase f, lowercase u, lowercase d, and lowercase r. Again, the class code for English 9 is all of the letters are set in lowercase with just one numeric character. So the class code would be S, 6, F, U, D, R. That's the class code for English 9. Later on, I'll give you the class code for debate. By the time this video gets posted there, or any of our videos, any of the videos of our sessions gets posted in our Edmodo class, you are then free to watch them from time to time, especially if you feel the need to go back to a previous discussion. Such is the case for debate. But by the time we do debate, formats will be provided. And if you feel the need to remind yourself of how a format actually works, the videos are there. They will not be deleted. The videos will remain there so that students can access them from time to time. Two students have just gotten in. We have Harvey and Alessa. I'd like to request Harvey to, if your camera allows it, Harvey, can you turn your camera on? Can you try turning your camera on, Harvey? If it's possible, though, only if it's possible. This morning, that puts your total count to 824. What about Alessa? Where are you now, Ken? What about Alessa? Can you try saying something like a greeting to your classmates?
Hi, guys.
Hello, good morning.
Oh.
In the case of Harvey, I think there is still something wrong. There's quite a problem. From here, I can see there's quite a problem from the audio, with the audio of Harvey. Any questions so far regarding the class code? I hope everybody got it correctly. And then, as the host of this Zoom call, I have deactivated the private chat that you can do among yourselves. Which means that if you have something to say, if you have something that you'd like to be pointed out in class, while discussions are going on, you can have them placed in the chat box for everybody to see. The good thing there is that if your classmates would like to raise the same concern, at least it will have already been answered because someone else had already pointed it out. Another thing, by the time in this English class, by the time we do recitations, yes, I'll still request you to do recitations, poetry recitations, because I've also love poetry, especially for the grades 9 and 10 kinds of selections. When we do poetry recitations, that will more or less require that the rest of you be set on mute. I can do that, or if not, if you notice that I've already muted you and then you have accidentally unmuted yourself, just bring yourself once more to a mute mode so that I could then hear your classmate do his or her share of the recitation. Poetry recitation is one thing that I have always been doing in my English classes because I don't know, but for some reasons, I kind of have more of a feel towards poetry recitation than the rest, towards poetry, than the rest of the other literary materials, as in the case of prose. It's just that last school year, I wasn't able to hold one with you because I wasn't your literature teacher. Our classes, my classes with you last school year were purely for grammar. And on that end, I'd like to also request you to do a recall of the things that you have learned, both in language and in literature. And I'd like to assess these things now. I'll be calling people from time to time. So don't be surprised if I call on you, and then I will then request you to answer the question that I have also raised or pointed out. As for this case, like for instance, how did you in your class define literature? Literature has so many definitions. Literature can be defined in so many ways. But how was it defined in your class in the previous school year or in the previous years when you were in grade 7, in grade 8, or in grade 6 in the lower grades? But perhaps your easiest recall will come from your grade 8 class on literature. How did you define literature? I'd like to call in Shalaila. So when I call on you, you can just unmute yourself. Shalaila, how was literature defined in your class before? Shai? Shalaila? Is there something wrong with the audio? I think there's some technicality issues regarding from the end of Shalaila. I'd like to call in another student. What about you, Al? How was literature defined in your grade 8 class? At this point in this arrangement, your bowing of heads won't work anymore. You can't anymore hide yourselves by bowing your heads. So Al, how was literature defined then?
I can't recall, sir.
I can't recall. But
So me.
I'd like to assume that it was defined.
I guess so, sir.
Were you absent? Were you all absent when the definition was provided? What about, I'd like to also hear from Mad. Any definition in literature that you could recall from the previous school year or from the previous years?
Writing, sir.
Literature involves writing. That's true. That's true. In fact, literature has two modes. Literature came in oral tradition and oral, yeah, that's spoken tradition, or in written tradition. It is by the manner of writing that literature has also been preserved through age and time. If not for that skill of writing, literature could have just remained in oral tradition. And then I'm not saying though that the oral tradition of literature is all the while not good, or that it's all the while not helpful for literature. But the danger is human tendencies would tell you that if literature was pure, was merely spoken, people might actually forget it as many things come to be registered in the mind. To preserve the contents of it, to make sure that literary materials remain in posterity, literature was placed in written form, was put into writing. And yes, the definition given by Mad is correct. Literature involves writing. What about Raphael? What can you recall of the definition of literature before? By the way, is there someone here who pronounces the word as literature? You don't have to feel bad about it. A teacher of mine in English 17 in college shared to us that while he was doing his master's degree in De La Salle University, so many of the professors there would pronounce the word actual as literature. We were surprised because we thought that the word is just pronounced as literature. Then, perhaps the better pronunciation is literature. There are probably just persons who prefer to pronounce it as literature. Let's give that chance to them. Let's go with Raf. How was literature defined before in your previous classes?
An open subject.
It's an open
subject.
An open subject. What do you mean by that?
You can give a lot of opinions.
Correct. That exists in literature. You can give a lot of ideas. Given one phrase, you can give a lot of ideas. You can go beyond what one person understands from a particular line, be it in prose or in poetry. You can add in what you personally think to a particular phrase, word, in fact, or a clause. And that proves the definition given by Raf. It's an open idea kind of subject. It's different from grammar. Diagramming. Let's go back to diagramming. Was diagramming an open lesson where using that concept, you could have diagrammed it in any way that you have wished a sentence could be diagrammed? I think not. So as grammar is purely bound on rules, yeah, it's highly bound on rules. It comes to be conventionalized that generally only one possible or a minimum number of options would be considered as correct. Whereas in literature, there are just so many ways by which you could interpret selections, lines, or just again, like what I said, just a word, giving literature the label of being an open subject. For instance, a clear example for this is, and yes, I've used this as an example in my previous literature classes. What if the author wrote the words, "The blue curtains were rolled down"? What if the line was just that simple? The blue curtains were rolled down. One person might say it's the call of death that is being unfolded, and that it reminds the people of the feeling of sadness, because sadness can be associated to the color blue. And a curtain, once rolled down on a stage, or when there is a stage performance, and when the curtain is rolled down, that symbolizes an end, or that means an end, which is equated to death. So from the line, "The blue curtains are rolled down," someone, right, like what I said, someone was able to think of death, which is mourned, a sad day because someone died. That could be one interpretation to it. But perhaps the author, the one who made the line, just really wanted to say that there are blue curtains that are rolled down, period. The author did not want anything metaphorical at all. The author just perhaps saw these blue curtains and that they were just rolled down plainly. That's just it. But once that line was brought to literature, has been brought to literature, look at what the people did. They tried to interpret it. They could interpret it in so many ways they wanted to. And yes, it really is an open kind of subject. Thank you, Raf, for that. One final definition perhaps that I would like to get would come from King. Yes, King. What definition in literature can you recall?
Written works.
Yeah, it involves written works. In conjunction to what Mad said earlier, literature involves written works. And that's what you've been reading. That's what you've been getting from books. The literary selections of yesterday have been brought up to this time. They have learned to live in continuity in posterity because they have now become written works. Just imagine if the famous William Shakespeare did not put all of his sonnets into writing. Where could they have been right now? Where could they be right now? They will probably have been lost in translation, lost in memory. But because they've been translated into written form, they have now become written works. These selections have managed to traverse centuries and centuries, even reaching the point of today where William Shakespeare is not anymore alive. That's perhaps one of the things that you can do if you wish to live an immortal life, an immortal identity. Like if I'm Corinne, if I were Corinne and I wished to be remembered by everybody, not just by the people of my generation, but by the rest of the people of the future generations, I'd try to create something which I could leave as my legacy. I can try to do that in literature. How can I do this? Perhaps I'll try to make a story. I'll try to make a poem for myself or for other people. Then literature has allowed the name of Corinne Yap to live an immortal identity. So literature can do that for you. Language. Let's go to grammar. How was your experience of grammar, Jaya? I hope, though you are entitled to your opinion, of course, you really are. I hope this answer will not just be influenced by one lesson, and that's diagramming.
For me, sir, it's more like the structure of sentences.
Correct.
And
Anything else?
no, sir.
I'd like to pinpoint that word from the answer given by Jaya, structure. It doesn't mean though that literature does not have any structure. It does. Literary selections have structures. In fact, by the time you proceed into the 21st century type of poetry, let me just focus on poetry for now, to the 21st century type of poetry, you can create poems that are structured like a cat or in the structure of a rose. And your poem will still be talking about the rose. That's structure. Or the structure in poetry or in literature might even refer to the number of words in a line, in a verse, or the nature of the selection, be it prosaic or poetic. Literature may also have structure. Yes, it can also have structure, but in terms of grammar, structure really matters so much. In literature, because of free verse, because of the free verse option in making literary materials, people tend to deviate from the conventions of literature. In English, in language or in grammar, it's not going to be that easy to deviate from the rules and standards of the English language. English language, because we are studying the English language here. There are just so many rules to follow. There are just so many things to consider. And the hope for fluency and accuracy are there by the time we understand these rules. Knowing the rules hopefully will make one accurate in the use of the language. By the time a person practices the use of the language accurately, hopefully fluency comes in. But mind you, when you listen to a lot of foreign movies, Western movies, and you become so technical while listening to them, you'll kind of notice that there are so many of their sentences that don't follow the rules of grammar. But why would it sound kind of all right? Why would it sound as if they already already sound so good at it? We have to remind ourselves that from these Western movies, the speakers, so many, if not more than majority of them, are native speakers of the English language. Therefore, even if they speak with grammar that is incorrect, they already sound good at it because that comes to be their innate characteristic. That is the nature that they already possess. That's a tendency, that's an inherent tendency among them. They get to speak the language naturally sounding good at it because that's their mother tongue. That's what they have already. Whereas in our case, we happen to be the second language learners of the English language. So we get to understand first how the language works, how it should work. And that's knowing the rules of grammar. And after knowing the rules of grammar, we will try to be good in the use of the language, incorporating the rules that we learned and understood. And then if we do not stop using the language, if we continue using it wherever we may be, hopefully we become fluent in its use. I can just recall that when so many of you were in elementary, were in the lower grades, you would play around the campus of IA. You would try to catch each other in a game of tag. You would run around during the intramural days, yet you would be speaking in English. But I have to be honest, your English then were kind of faulty. Just imagine a game of magic. Remember that game? Magic. When students would do this, they would charge, and they would shield, they would do the uno. Before, students would just barge into my room, into my classroom, and then would just simply say, "Sir, enter me." They have no idea how wrong it sounds. Imagine an elementary student or a high school student for that, going to that classroom, then saying that statement, "Sir, enter me, sir." If only they knew what it meant. But what was the intended meaning of the student? What did that student want to really say? "Sir, can I join you in your game?" It just came out as, "Sir, enter me." But we knew what it meant. We knew what the sentence meant. But we must not end it there. In the passage of time, by knowing the structure that Jaya was kind of pointing out earlier, by knowing the structure of sentences, a student should soon, the soonest perhaps, the better, the soonest, revise that line of "enter me" into its proper structure. to where what the student could better say is, "Sir, can I join you? Sir, can I join your game? Can we join the game?" How would one know that, or where would one know that? In a place where the where the rules of the language are being discussed. For instance, let me bring back diagramming. A lesson that you loved so much, the lesson that you learned to love. What was the main purpose of diagramming? Why was that lesson created to begin with? Why would a linguist try to propose the lesson on diagramming? Almost all students, I don't know how, to those who did well, honestly, who among you here felt like you did well in diagramming? Let's just be honest. Let's just be honest, of course. Who among you here felt like, I think I did fine, sir, in diagramming? I would agree, Kent did well at that time. Who else? Don't be modest. You don't have to be modest about this. It's being honest. Your papers were with you. Your scores showed that you did well. Was it only Kent that did fine in diagramming? What about Al? You don't have to be very modest on this one. You can just be honest about it. Oh, Ken is also raising his hand. I think Kathy, I think, also raised her hand. Because the beauty with diagramming is you supposedly knew how words function in a sentence. Kent here has just sent a message. You have the names of them, Kathy, Ken, Al, and Corinne. I thought Kent wrote all. When I thought that it was all, I was kind of bothered. But I think, yeah, everybody, let's just put it that way. Everybody did so well in diagramming. You all did so well. I bet if I ask you to diagram a sentence now, you can't wait to show me your answers. If you could still recall the lessons that we had in diagramming, can you? I bet after the test, after the grade 8 language class, right after the last ST, when it was announced that there won't be a quarterly exam, you have said your goodbyes to all of your papers in diagramming. The torment was there. The horrors of diagramming were on that paper, on those papers. Linguists created that subject because words function in a sentence. Words are placed in sentences to stand for a particular purpose. Like, why would the word woman be placed here? Maybe because that word woman is our subject. What is the nature of the word woman? To what part of speech does it belong? It's a noun. Oh, okay. Since it's a noun, we can't place it on the area for the verb. See? Knowing the function of words in a sentence would allow one to arrive at a good decision on how a sentence should be structured. Right after, by the way, the lesson on diagramming, which would you prefer? The diagramming lesson or the semantic tree? The tree, the one with this. Which one would you actually prefer? If I'm going to ask you now, Alex, which one would you prefer? The semantic tree or diagramming?
The semantic tree.
Do others share the same sentiment? What about you, Hero? Would you prefer the semantic tree over the diagramming lesson? Yes. Without hesitation, Hero said yes. What about Dave? Was Dave around when you had the lesson on the semantic tree? Dave?
No, sir.
So Dave can't relate. I would suggest, Dave, that you find another way to position yourself, because that posture of you will more or less be prone to you feeling kind of sleepy. And try to move your camera. It was said during the orientation that students should be set upright, that they should be seated well, so as to develop a condition where they would be more into a discussion for whatever subject there may be. Just look at your classmates. Oh, they're all seated so well. The English 9 subject will have activities which will also be more or less tied up to your debate class. What do I mean by this? One of the things that you are expected to accomplish in your debate class would be the making of a speech. Given time, you'll be delivering your respective debate speeches, persuasive speeches, and of course, the lesson in the making of a speech will have to be incorporated in our English class. That involves grammar. Content-wise, that's probably subjective, as you might want to have your own or individual contents. But in the construction of your speeches, that's a lesson that is introduced in grammar. Therefore, please do not be surprised. I just have to tell you this. Please do not be surprised if by the time you ask for your grade, by the time we give you your grade, there will be a score in debate which is also reflected in the English class record. Or it could be a score in the English class record or activity in the English class record, which got reflected in the debate class record as well. Because then again, there just might be lessons that can be incorporated in both subjects. As for the orientation of debate, of course, we can have that later on. Any questions so far regarding our English 9 subject? Is this everybody, 24? Is there someone who isn't around yet? Because I was told that you are supposed to be 27, but as of this time, I can see 24 students. For Kent, I would suggest Kent Marcinilia, I would suggest that you find yourself a place where you could, a place where learning could be more, a place which is kind of more conducive for learning. I'm not saying that where you are now is not conducive for learning, but perhaps you can find a better location later on, inside your room, inside your house, not outside with the coconut trees behind you. In the case of Trixley, I think I'm seeing a picnic umbrella behind you. So that tells me that you're outside your house. If you can find a better location, or if that location provides a conducive atmosphere for you, then so be it. For as long as the distractions won't be there, or the distractions are minimized. As of this time, it's already 8:28. Okay. Trixley has said that he's connecting to his neighbor's Wi-Fi. That's good, that's good. So I'll consider your case, Trixley. It's all right. As of this time, I'd like to end the call at an earlier time so as to give you the chance to join the call for the next session. And for me to also ready another call, ready this group for another call. By the time our period ends, or when I call for the period to end, just leave this Zoom room, because I will not anymore end this call. I will not end this call yet, since I'm just going to wait for the next batch of students to get in. For my next set of students to get in. My next set of students would be grade 11 students. They'll just get inside this room and this Zoom room, and then you are just then requested to leave the session. Time check, it's 8:29. If you have no more questions, then that will be all for this morning. See you and goodbye.
Goodbye and
Hi, and thank you.
thank you,
Bye,
sir.
sir.
Bye,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Bye,
Bye,
sir.
sir.
Goodbye,
Sir,
sir.
thank you, sir. Bye.
Bye, sir.